Hey everyone! What is up? It is I, DPX. Welcome to another video. This is the long-awaited, long-delayed 2022 movie ranking video. Every movie I saw in 2022 ranked from worst to best. The reason why this was delayed was because I didn't really see as many movies this past year as I normally do. In 2021, the ranking was like almost 60 movies, you know, and I don't know, I kind of just... There are certain gaps where, like, I wasn't going to the movie theater. There are other times where, like, movies would drop on, like, Netflix or Disney Plus or, you know, other streaming services. And I'd, like, there would be movies that I would watch, but, like, I just didn't watch them, you know? But the year was ending, and I definitely wanted to catch up on many movies that I missed. So that's why this video got delayed. A lot of the movies on here I kind of just saw. So, yeah, but by the way, this is my opinion, alright? So don't get mad at me. This is my opinion. And I'll be placing them into tiers, and it'll be in whatever order. But then, at the end of it, I will give you the order from worst to best. So yeah, let's begin. But before we do that, subscribe. Now let's begin. A Christmas Story Christmas. This movie kind of came out of nowhere, you know. It was... I feel like they announced it with a full trailer, and then it came out like 2 weeks later, which is never a good sign, especially since it was, like, on a streaming service. And also, they've done a lot of sequels to A Christmas Story, and they're all kind of shit, you know. But this is, like, a sequel that has the original cast come back, and it, like, picks up, like, years after the first one did. By the way, I love A Christmas Story. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I feel like this might be a little too high for it, but I want to give it an A. Just because, like, I don't know, maybe it's a low A, you know, I don't know. But it's just a really nice movie. I like, it shouldn't be this good, but it is. It's, you know, it gives me, like, it got emotional a lot, you know, especially how they handled the death of the father, who, that's not a spoiler, that was in the trailer and in the synopsis and everything, but in the movie they kind of treat it like a spoiler, which is weird. But now it's Ralphie's, Ralphie has to, he's in charge of Christmas, and just all the little things that go on, you know, the nice callbacks to the original. It's not trying to be better than the original. I don't even think it's trying to be as good. It's just trying to be a nice follow-up, a nice, like, many years later follow-up, and I just love that. It's not, it does, okay, maybe not A tier. I'm gonna move it down to B, because, it's not trying to be anything too crazy, and also there are some issues I had with it, of course. Like, Ralphie has a son and a daughter, and both of them, I did not like them. It's not because they're annoying children, it's that they're not written to act like, they don't act like children. And that's just weird to me. I hate it when movies make, like, a 5-year-old say things that, like, a 5-year-old... Like, isn't it so funny how well-spoken this 5-year-old is? It just feels lazy. But other than that, I think this was a very nice movie. And it might have helped that I watched it on Christmas Day. But it's very nice. Avatar: The Way of Water. Now, I'm not a big fan of Avatar, you know, the first movie, because... I mean, it's not bad, it's just, I don't find it to be all that memorable, and I was cautious, I was willing to see this one, but I wasn't, like, over the roof excited. I didn't even make a review for it because I didn't even see it on time. I meant to see it, like, and make a review for it, but I just saw it a little too late, to the point where it's like, what's the point of making a review, you know? I gotta give it an A. Visually, yeah, you can't go wrong with it. Like, the world of Pandora is definitely a world to be explored, but also, like, it's just beautiful. But also, I just think this is better than the original. This is, like, you do a nice time jump. You know, this takes place years later, and, you know, Jake, Sully, and, Neytiri, they have 6 kids, some of them biological, some of them adopted, and, you know, it kind of focuses more on them. It's still not perfect, you know. I think certain characters, like Neytiri, doesn't do a whole lot in this movie. And Jake Sully is he's a little strict on his kids, and I get that's like, you know, you gotta give him an arc. Maybe he's like, oh, he needs to learn to not be so strict, but there are moments where he's strict, and it doesn't really make too much sense for him to be that way. Certain characters with some weird decisions. Like, there's this one character who, like, kept flip-flopping between good and bad, but, like, it's entertaining. It's a 3-hour movie that kind of flies by. It's 3 hours, you know. The final act is just non-stop action, but it's very well done action. I didn't think I'd be saying this about Avatar, but I think I recommend this to people because this is a very solid film. The Batman S tier, you know. This year was a little wonky for comic book movies, you know. The best comic book movie this year, and honestly, I do not even think it is close. The Batman is, like, this is a detective Batman movie, you know. Batman's a detective, and I like how this really leaned into that. We were all unsure about Robert Pattinson as Batman, even though Robert Pattinson's a great actor. We were all kind of unsure about him as Batman. He absolutely, with the kind of Bruce Wayne / Batman that they're doing in this movie, in this Batman world, I think Robert Pattinson is a great pick. Gotham feels the most like a lived-in, breathed-in world. Gotham in and of itself is a character, and you feel that here, and you realize, like, Batman, like, you might be fighting an unwinnable battle trying to save Gotham. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, like, that should not work at all, but it does, and they're making a Penguin series on HBO Max. I want to see that, you know. Paul Dano as the Riddler, you know, I think they've greenlit the sequel, and I can't wait for it. Black Adam. Speaking of comic book movies, Black Adam is a weird one because, I mean, I feel like it changes now, knowing how what's going on with the DCEU and James Gunn and all that shit, you know, especially since, like, all the future plans that this movie set up is not happening, at least as far as we know. But as a movie, I think it was a fun time. I'm gonna give it a B tier. You know, C tier is like iffy movies that can go either way. I'd say Black Adam is a lot better, you know. Black Adam is definitely a B tier. It falls under the good category, but it is kind of a generic superhero movie. It's a fun time, you know. I'm sure you go to the movie theater or now watch it on HBO Max, and you watch the movie and you'll be entertained. You know, it's Dwayne Johnson just wrecking shop. You know, you got Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate and Albus Hodge as Hawkman. You know, they're all a lot of fun. And I will say, the after credits scene kind of made the whole movie worth it, but now it's just weird. You know, now that we know that that's not happening. So it kind of makes this movie feel a little, I don't know, in vain, because it kind of felt like it was trying to set up Black Adam as this big, unstoppable force, and then, spoilers if you haven't seen Black Adam, or you haven't been spoiled by it already because it was spoiled before it even came out, but then Superman comes in the after credits scene, and there's Black Adam's match. That's what it kind of felt like the whole movie was set up, and now that we know we're not going to get it, like, I don't like to factor in outside stuff for, like, what I think about a movie, you know, because people say, like, you know, the trailers spoil something, you know, they give too much away. They hold that against the movie. They made the movie first, and then they made the trailers. But this is kind of like, they made the movie first, and then they removed basically what this movie was setting up. So that does kind of affect it a little bit. But if you watch this movie just to have a fun time, I don't think it will disappoint. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, I'm gonna give it an A tier because, I mean, of the 3 MCU movies that came out this year, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is the one I was the least excited for. Not because I was not excited to see it, but because I was worried. You know, you don't have Chadwick Boseman, and they chose not to recast him, which means you don't have your main character. I wasn't all that high on the MCU when this movie came out, but I'd say as just unfocused and as tricky as Phase 4 of the MCU has been, Phase 4 ends on a high note. You have this whole movie feels like a nice tribute, a nice funeral for Chadwick Boseman and the character of T'Challa. And it feels like the natural progression of like from the first Black Panther movie, and the way that you know, T'Challa's death was handled in this movie, I thought was perfection. And yeah, it's a bit long. I don't think it needed to be this long. They could have shaved off some. There was never like any moments that they could have shaved off. There's a whole subplot with like Ross and Val that I think maybe not completely cut out of the movie, because I do think it has some implications for the future of the MCU, but like they definitely could have shaved some of that off, because like we cut back to that a few times and it's sort of just like, oh right, this is happening, you know. But I think this is a very solid MCU movie and definitely a good end for Phase 4. Blonde! Yikes. I'm putting this in F. And similar to last year, you know, I made F tier because I wanted to put He's All That and Thunder Force in F tier, and then all the other like really bottom movies would be in E, and then it would work its way up basically. There are 3 movies that I want to put in F tier, and now that I put one of them in there, I think you might know what the other 2 might be. But yikes. That's my one-word review. Okay, I'm gonna come clean to you guys. I watched this movie, and I actually planned to make like a review for it, you know. There's gonna be a video on my channel where I'm reviewing Blonde, but, and this is where I'm gonna come clean to you guys, I didn't finish watching it. In case you guys don't know, this is the Marilyn Monroe biopic. It's weird to call it a biopic, because like watching this movie made me feel sick in more ways than one. Like even on a technical aspect, like the movie keeps shifting between aspect ratios and film stocks, but it kept shifting between stuff like that to the point where I'm like, this is hard to watch. But if that didn't make it hard to watch, how about you make you know, you show Marilyn Monroe getting raped, and you show her just basically getting tortured. It's not fun. And you know, like sometimes there are movies that are hard to watch, but in a good way. Like they're supposed to be difficult to watch. This movie, I feel like, takes it a little too far. You know, the one positive I can give it is Ana de Armas, who plays Marilyn Monroe, does a fantastic job. I didn't finish it because it didn't feel right watching this. I'm like, I can't watch this. This doesn't feel like something I should be watching. And it's only not my worst movie of the year of 2022 because I didn't finish it. So I don't think it would be fair for me to have it as my worst movie. You could maybe even say it shouldn't be on this list, but like, even though I only saw half the movie, I think I get the gist of, I think I am inclined to make an opinion on the movie. I don't think it would be fair to say it's my worst of the year, though. This is like, I think this shows that like some true stories just shouldn't be made into movies, you know? This shouldn't have been a movie. It would be different if Marilyn Monroe was still around to like give her blessing to this movie, but she's not. So this has no reason to exist. I heard the director of the movie isn't even a fan of hers, so like, I don't know why this movie exists. And I honestly don't want to talk about it anymore. Alright, Bob's Burgers, the movie. I have never watched a single episode of Bob's Burgers before watching this movie, and funny enough, I still haven't. So this is like my only Bob's Burgers piece of media I've ever watched. And I'm sure Bob's Burgers fans will get more of a kick out of it. It was very impressive to see like a 2D animated movie in the theater. That was pretty cool to see. We don't get that like ever, basically. But I didn't really feel like here. I didn't feel here, so I could go either way on it. So I'm gonna put it in the C tier. I think it's fine. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but yeah. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I was expecting this movie to be like here, maybe not worse than Blonde, but like here. I almost wanted to give it. I almost wanted to put it in my top 10, but I'm like, okay, we're putting it a little too high because this movie's way better than it has any right to be. You know, with all the shit that Disney put out this year, you know, they put out like, what, 6 theatrically released movies. 3 of them were MCU movies. The other three were Lightyear, Avatar, and Strange World. Like, they put out so much shit this year that all felt like, you know, we have all these recognizable IPs, let's just put them all out on Disney Plus so we have content, you know? And you'll see that with some movies later on. Chip and Dale felt like the worst of that going in, but I think it's the best of that. Of all the bullshit Disney put out this year just for content on Disney Plus, I think this is like the best one. You know, obviously there's Turning Red, but like that was supposed to be theatrical. This was like a direct-to-Disney Plus movie. It doesn't feel like, you know, remember this? It feels like this was made with love. It feels like they tried to make a fucking movie and not like, remember this? I kind of just said that, but you know, I didn't make a review for this, and I don't know why. I should have, I could have, but it was a lot of fun. I thought, you know, the cameos, you know, little cameos, they didn't feel like fan service, they just popped in. Ugly Sonic was an MVP, and I did not expect to see him there. You know, I just think the bootleg machine, I thought that was clever. It's just a fun movie, and it should not be this good. I do not see how this is on the same tier as Avatar and Black Panther, but it is. Well, I just talked shit about Disney, but 3 of their movies are in A tier. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick rules. I think, I was not sure. I'm teetering between an E or D. So on the one hand, it's fairly inoffensive, but on the other hand, it's not good, and it's just, again, it's one of many just bullshit that Disney put out. I'm gonna drop it an E, but I'll make my decision a bit later, just so I can put my hand off the mouse. My issue here, like last year, or 2 years ago I guess now, they put out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the animated movie, you know, on Disney Plus, and I thought, like, this isn't that bad. I put it in C tier in 2021's ranking, because, like, it's not that bad, but it's also, like, not that good. The 2021 animated Disney Plus Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie was basically just a retelling of the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie, but, like, at 2 times speed. It flew through everything. But I was a little more forgiving of that, because it's like, okay, you know, it's the first movie, but next year they're not gonna do that, right? No, they did it with Rodrick Rules, a movie we already got this movie. You know, this is not the first movie that is called Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules. And it's the same thing as the other movie, which, by the way, you know, of that original trilogy, Rodrick Rules is the best one. And, but again, it's, like, in 2 times speed. And I like the stuff, like, when they included the grandpa, and I wish they could have done a little more, but the movie just doesn't have time. You know, it just feels lazy. I don't know if it deserves an E tier, though. I'm gonna give it a D, but at the bottom of D. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This was the MCU movie I was most looking forward to. And I guess that was just sort of expectations I put on myself about the multiverse stuff. But at the same time, in the Multiverse of Madness, that's in the title. And in terms of the multiverse stuff, it disappointed. But I think this is a fairly decent movie, all things considered. B tier. My issue is obviously, you know, go on red, stop on green, pizza balls. That's not what we expect when we hear Multiverse of Madness. And I do think the Illuminati, it's great to see Patrick Stewart, it's great to see Anson Mount back as Black Bolt, John Krasinski as Doctor Strange, as Mr. Fantastic. You know, great to see them. Captain Carter, great to see them all here. It almost feels like they're just there so they can get violently murdered by Wanda, which I do want to say this is, unless you count Werewolf by Night, this is the goriest MCU movie. And it's a Sam Raimi movie, and this feels more like an Evil Dead Sam Raimi as opposed to Spider-Man Sam Raimi. I feel like you definitely get aspects from both, which I think is really cool. I'm happy that we got to see Sam Raimi make another Marvel movie. And I think, like, if I were to make a ranking of the MCU Phase 4, this would be higher. This would be pretty high, because I'd say this movie is pretty good. It's like a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10. And it's a B tier, you know. But, like, I think it could have been so much better. Everything Everywhere All at Once. The best multiverse movie was not Marvel, DC, or anything like that. It was Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is a multiverse movie that is honestly a trip that I loved every second of. But also it's about family. And I was not expecting it to get that emotional. S tier, for sure. You know, Michelle Yeoh is, like, she could still be a badass, you know. The other guy, I forget his name, Kiyu Kwan, I heard he kind of retired from acting and he came back for this movie. He's great, you know. It's just it's a trip, you know. It is insane. 2.5 hours long, but it doesn't feel like that, you know. It kind of flies through. I didn't see this till recently, you know. It was in the theaters and it did, like, very well, for a while. But I didn't see it till recently, and it's a lot of fun. I think you guys should watch this. It is a trip, you know, but it's a fucking awesome trip. The Fabelmans, S tier, another S tier, you know. By the way, S tier is gonna be like my top 5 favorite movies of the year. A tier is the next 5 in the top 10, and then other movies I think deserve A tier. And then, yeah, so The Fabelmans is a movie I wanted to see in the theater, but I just never got around to it, you know. But basically, this is a Steven Spielberg movie that's semi-autobiographical. You know, he takes many. It's not about you know, him per se. It's not about his life, but he takes a lot of aspects of his own journey and applies it to this movie, you know. And this is basically about how some kid aspires to be a film director and becomes a film director and makes films. And it's basically just a movie that tells you, like, movies are great, and you can definitely see that. It does tell you why movies are great. I wish it kind of showed me a little more. That's my one thing against this movie. I wish it showed me instead of told me, but, like, it's a fun time, you know. I don't remember the name of who played Sammy, who's basically I guess the stand-in for Steven Spielberg. But he did great. Paul Dano's in this movie, and Seth Rogen is in this movie, and they're all great. It's a fun time. It's definitely, I don't think it's for everybody. It's a long movie, but there are definitely things they could have shaved off. It's a fantastic movie about movies. Glass Onion. Look, I'm not trying to put everything in S tier, alright? But S tier. I don't know if it's better than the first Knives Out movie. I didn't review that movie, and I actually didn't even see it until after I did my ranking of that year. But that movie, I think, is like a top 5 movie of, what was it, 2019 it came out. This is the fantastic sequel. I wish I saw it in the theater, because, like, a movie like this, I think, would be a really cool movie theater experience. But, oh well. You know, it's a whodunit, but instead you're on an island now, and the cast, like, of course, I think all these Knives Out movies, they're gonna have awesome casts. Like, you got Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, who I think is becoming a pretty recognizable character in movies. But also you got, like, Catherine Hahn and Dave Bautista and Edward Norton, you know, they're all just having fun, and they actually got me a few times. Like, there's a twist where it's like, okay, so it can't be this character. Oh, but maybe it is this character who did the murder. No, it's not. Oh, maybe it is. It's like it blew my mind. There's certain moments I kind of wish Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig's awesome in this role, but I feel like I wish he kind of, the way he kind of acted about this whole thing at times was a little questionable, and also the way it gets resolved, I think, could have been, it's not bad, but, like, I wish would have been a little more satisfying. Not that it's dissatisfying, but wish it could have just been a little more satisfying, you know. But it's definitely, I heard it's like, I heard it's like one of Netflix's like biggest movies like ever, and it's been out for like 10 days at the time of recording, which is impressive. So yeah, go watch this movie if you haven't already, but watch the first one first. I don't know where you can watch that one, but watch Knives Out and then watch Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special. Now, here's the thing about this one. I like this and Werewolf by Night are on this ranking because I don't know where else. I think they fit under movies more than they do fit under like TV shows, and I want to put them on. I didn't watch a whole lot of movies this year, so I want to increase the number a little bit. I'm going to put an A tier. I almost want to give it S, but I'm going to keep it like out of my top 10 favorite of the year because it's technically not a movie. Okay, but I think this and Werewolf by Night are the two, other than No Way Home, are the two best MCU movies of Phase 4. If you even count them as movies. This is definitely, it might be one of the best Christmas specials of all time, and I think this is gonna be a Christmas special everyone should watch every year. Basically, Star-Lord had Christmas ruined for him when he was younger, but then Drax and Mantis learn about Christmas, and they basically capture Kevin Bacon to try to be a Christmas present for Star-Lord, and it's just a lot of cool stuff. And I just watched like Mantis. She's never not like a bad character at all, but like she was never a character who I gave much of a shit about. And I would assume she wasn't really a character that most people ever gave much of a shit about. After watching the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, she's one of my favorite Guardians, because it's her and Drax that are basically the two main characters of this, and it's just nice. It got me into the holiday spirit, and that's all you can ask for a Christmas special, really. Again, though, it's not going to be higher because it's not really a movie, but I think this is a Christmas special that needs to be viewed by everyone every year. Halloween Ends. We got our first E tier. This one hurts. This one hurts, and I'll tell you why. Of course, I really like the first Halloween movie, the original, but it's got a lot of like shitty sequels. Who cares? And then the 2018 movie came out, and it breathed new life into the series, which is, you know, it got me excited for the series, for the franchise again. Halloween Kills, I think it had some great ideas, but it wasn't executed very well. And it kind of ruined the excitement for a lot of people for this movie, but I stayed optimistic. This movie somehow managed to be worse than Kills. And I might have said differently in my review. I might have said this is better than Halloween Kills. No, it's not. It is not better than Halloween Kills. And it's basically, it's not a Michael Myers movie, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but for the third movie in a trilogy, yeah, that is a fucking bad thing. This is instead about, like, the effects of evil, you know, what the effects evil has on people. You know, and Corey, I don't think the guy who played Corey did a bad job, but it's like, I was watching this, and I was like, this is cool and all, but, like, why are we following this guy? It blows my mind. This is like the most money talks movie trilogy of all. This did not need to be a trilogy. Honestly, I don't even think Halloween Kills needed to exist, let alone this movie. I will say it's not F tier. I don't know if it's in my top 10 worst of the year. If it is, it's just because. But climactic battle that the whole marketing campaign was like marketing. The fight between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode is definitely entertaining and satisfying, but even then, it feels like it's in the wrong movie. That felt like a satisfying conclusion to Halloween Kills. But yeah, very disappointing. The Invitation, we got another E tier. You might not have heard of this movie, or maybe you have because If you see you might have seen the trailer for this. This is that vampire movie that basically spoils the entire movie in its trailer. Where, like, some girl gets invited. It's a Dracula's Bride movie, you know? And it's just painfully generic. But, like, the movie almost, like, I feel like the movie thinks it's so clever with its reveals. You know, it has a bunch of twists and reveals that I didn't see I didn't even know about this movie. You know, my cousin was like, hey, you want to go to the movies? They have, like, $3 movies. I'm sure. And he was like, let's see The Invitation. I'm like, sure, never heard of this movie. But, yeah. So I didn't even watch the trailer for it. But, like, it has all the twists and reveals. It's a Dracula's Bride movie, and it doesn't feel unique. But the movie thinks it's clever, you know, and there are times where it's like, it has the main character fighting a character, but they'll share dialogue with each other, and it feels like, you know, you've been waiting for this moment for years. It's like, no! What? Who are you? And it ends with, I'm gonna fucking spoil it, because who cares? And it ends with the main character, or the character you want to see get fucked up the most, about to get fucked up. That's how the movie ends. What the Jackass Forever. High B, low A. This is, what can I tell you? It's a Jackass movie. I'm gonna put an A, but maybe I'll change it up later. It's not doing anything too crazy, you know, in terms of Jackass. It does do some crazy shit. You know, one guy gets his nuts fucked up, and another guy just gets, like, fucking nailed with paintballs. It's honestly really funny. I was laughing my ass off. The girl in there is really funny. I don't have much to say about it though, because it's Jackass, you know. Like, what you see here is what you get. Lightyear. This one disappointed me. I'm gonna give it a C because it's not bad, but it's certainly not that good. I love the concept. The concept of Lightyear is Andy went to go see a movie that made him buy a Buzz Lightyear toy. This is the movie that he went to see. The thing is, though, this doesn't feel like the movie Andy would go see. This feels like a very mature movie, and I don't see why Andy would want to get a fucking Buzz Lightyear toy, because it's basically like, it's basically about a man, like, grieving time, almost. You know what I mean? The loss of time. I will say the beginning is done extremely well. But this is really where the first, like, what, 10-20 minutes is perfect. But the rest of the movie pales in comparison, you know? I don't think there is anyone that any kid would want to buy a toy of aside from Socks the Cat. And that villain twist, I think, honestly, it didn't make any sense. It was, you've probably heard about it, it's Buzz. It's not Buzz's father. It's Buzz from the future. So not only is that like a massive retcon, it also just doesn't make any sense if it wasn't a retcon. So what the fuck? Huh? Yeah, this movie could have been so much better, but what are you gonna do? The Menu. I was out at the movies with some friends, and a few times they played this trailer, and a lot of them were like, what the fuck is this? Basically, it's a restaurant ran by this chef who's also a bit psycho, and he and basically throughout the movie, each course comes out, and the restaurant just becomes more and more fucking unhinged. And it honestly had me at the edge of my seat as the movie progressed. I'm gonna give it an A tier. In fact, I think it's going at the top. I think it's next to Avatar. Because it's just, I wasn't like, I kind of knew what I was getting into. I'd heard about like how fucking insane this movie gets. But I wasn't expecting it to get like that. There are times in the movie where like something happens, and I'm like, what the fuck? And it's insane. Minions: The Rise of Gru. Now, normally I'd say this goes in C tier, but honestly, it's a problem with Illumination. They just made a movie that is like not good enough to really praise that much. It's not so bad to where if I were to like talk shit about this movie, it's like it kind of feels like a waste of time just to rant about how bad this movie, because it's not the worst thing. So, but I am gonna give it a D. It is a D tier. You know, it's not bad. It's painfully mediocre. And because it's painfully mediocre on just about every level, makes it kind of bad. You know, makes it below average. Like, I really, like, after watching the movie, I kind of felt like, wow, I don't think I feel or fucking, I'm thinking nothing. I felt nothing, okay? I was trying to think of a clever way to fucking say that, but no, I just felt nothing, alright? I think you have a good idea with Gru, kind of like, it's like a villain origin story, and he kind of gets like a father figure. I like that idea, but like, they don't really, it's not center stage, you know? This movie's called Minions, it's not like, so you don't focus that much on Gru. Like, I think you got a good plot there, but again, this isn't really worth getting all worked up over. It's just painfully mediocre, and that's why it's at D. We got the most successful movie of the year. Fuck Avatar, fuck Top Gun. They might have made over $1 billion, but Morbius made over, what, 200 more $1 billion? Like, that's in the more $1 billion territory. Alright, S tier. In fact, no, all over there, S tier. All jokes aside, though, this is one of the F tier movies. It's not worse than, no, it's not worse than Blonde. It's not worse than Blonde, because at least I didn't feel, well, I did kind of feel sick watching this movie, because it felt chopped up in a weird way, but like, at least it didn't feel like a movie I shouldn't be watching. This movie's so bad that it got memed into oblivion. I just want to say real quick, we trolled Sony into re-releasing this movie and having it bomb again at the box office. I don't think that has ever happened before, and I don't think it ever will. But what can I say about Morbius that hasn't already been said? It's definitely the worst comic book movie of the year. I think it might be the worst comic book movie in years. Like, it's the worst. It's worse than any comic book movie that came out last year, the year before that, the year before that. This is the worst comic book movie. Sorry, this is the worst comic book movie we've gotten in a while, and like, because it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like basically this movie's been done for years, and it was sitting there for years because of the pandemic. So Sony kept teetering with it, making new scenes, adding stuff in, taking stuff out, and you can see that. I said this movie was killed in the editing room, and it absolutely was, from what I heard. It's definitely terrible. It's like, it has ideas that I don't think are that bad, but they don't fucking go anywhere, and I don't think it's worth talking that much about Morbius, because it's Morbius. What else do I have to say about Morbius, other than, ironically, it is the best movie. It's the second most epic movie of all time, next to the original Space Jam. You know, I actually don't think Morbius should be a meme, because in 10 years, people are gonna find out about Morbius through its meme status. They're gonna watch the movie out with morbid, I didn't even mean for that, morbid curiosity, and they're gonna be disappointed, because it's not even that bad. It's not even so bad that it loops back around and becomes good again. It's not worth watching. It really isn't. It's just not worth watching. The 9 Lives of Vince McMahon. I guess he's a fucking cat now, but yeah, this is a Vice documentary about Vince McMahon. If you guys don't know, obviously you guys do know, he's like, he ran the WWE for a while, and ran like the professional wrestling business with an iron fist for years, until recently, where, you know, the Wall Street article came out, and he sexually assaulted many women and paid them with hush money, so he stepped down and all that. And not too long ago, this might even be the latest movie on here. Came out, it aired on Vice, and it's a perfectly fine movie. I'm gonna put it in C because I was entertained by it. You know, it was nice watching it, but it felt like a long episode of Dark Side of the Ring, which is, if you don't know, that's Vice documentary series on a bunch of wrestling, like, controversies and mysteries and stuff. I think it's a really solid docu-series. But it felt like a very long episode of Dark Side of the Ring that didn't really reveal anything new and didn't really give us a new perspective on anything. Everything that this this movie touched on was stuff we already knew. So there's that, you know. But like, and there are certain moments of time that like the movie just flies by, doesn't touch on that much, you know. Like there are reports of Vince McMahon being like a racist, and this documentary does not touch on that at all. You'd say, well, DPX, it's, from what it sounds like, it's mostly about the sexual assault stuff. Yeah, but it spends an awful lot of time on a lot of other things, you know, some other scandals he got himself into that aren't sexual assault. I think it is a decent watch, but it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel unique. It doesn't feel like I learned anything new. With Dark Side of the Ring, I feel like I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know. This one is stuff I feel like is out there by like major trades. So yeah. You guys want to know my the worst movie of the year of 2022? Disney's Pinocchio. Get yourself into F tier, fucker. That's what F tier stands for. Fuck you. Okay. Well, when I first saw this, I was sort of thinking, okay, this is bad, but it's not the worst thing ever. It's not even the worst live-action Disney remake. I think The Lion King and Mulan are both worse. The more I think about it, Pinocchio, I really do not like Mulan and The Lion King. Those two remakes really frustrated me. Pinocchio gives me a newfound appreciation for those two. Say what you want about The Lion King, about how it's like a soulless, lifeless, and lazy remake. Say what you want about Mulan, how it is an infuriating remake that takes stuff out of the original, but doesn't replace it with anything even remotely interesting. This movie has nothing going for it. And the problem is, it had a good... You have Tom Hanks as Geppetto. That sounds like it should work. You have Robert Zemeckis doing this. I don't know what happened. Tom Hanks, like, he doesn't look like he gives a shit at all. And, you know, Tom Hanks is a good actor. I don't know why he's not good in this movie. Robert Zemeckis is a great director. I don't know, but he didn't make a good movie. The effects on Pinocchio are dog shit, and it's not the VFX artist's fault if you know anything about what's been going on with the VFX artists over at Disney. But like, they're still awful. It changes things from the original, which is good. You know, I complained about the Lion King remake that it didn't really change anything. So it's good to see changes, but it changed the wrong things. You don't have Pinocchio going... He goes to Pleasure Island, but oh no, in the original, the kids were like drinking beer and getting high. Pinocchio gets fucking hammered in the original, but no, you can't have that. So the kids are drinking root beer in this. Root beer is basically a soda. You're allowed to drink that. Pinocchio doesn't want to drink a fucking soda. Sorry. It's just... It's kind of like Morbius. What about this movie hasn't already been said? What can I say about it? It's bottom of the barrel. This is Disney's... I think this is the worst it gets for the live-action Disney remakes. Speaking of Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. What a contrast. Disney's Pinocchio, F tier. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, S. I was not expecting to love this movie as much as I did, but this is like the story of Pinocchio. It's a dark and kind of creepy story, you know, and you definitely feel that. You know, you're not creeped out to the point where it's like not fun to watch, but like it has some creepy aspects. Pinocchio, I've heard people say, like, Pinocchio's just not likable in this movie. I think Pinocchio acts exactly like how someone made out of fucking wood and doesn't even know jack shit would act like. The animation, if this doesn't win Best Animated Movie at the Oscars are fucked in the head, you know, because this is the best animated movie of... I haven't seen Puss in Boots, alright? I've heard that's the best animated movie. So I don't want to say that. I kind of forgot about that. I haven't seen that yet, but like, other than that, This is the best animated movie of the year of 2022, without, like, by a long shot. None of them come even close. And the animation's fucking fantastic. It's like stop motion animation. It looks really good. And there were moments where I nearly shed a tear. Yeah, I'll fucking say it. I almost fucking cried during Pinocchio. It's a Guillermo del Toro movie. It's an animated movie, but it's Guillermo del Toro. It feels like a Guillermo del Toro movie, and it's fantastic. I think you guys need to watch this movie. Scream 5, although it's not called Scream 5, but it's just called Scream. But the next movie that comes out very shortly after this one, which is weird, is called Scream 6. So you have Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, Scream, and then Scream 6. The fuck? A B tier. I've not seen a Scream movie before this, but I think it's good. It's really good. There are definitely moments, like, there's a character that gets killed in broad daylight and no one gives a shit. Like, really? You know, and okay, maybe you do it indoors, but like, no, it's outdoors. I saw this like about a year ago, you know, and I don't remember a whole lot about it, but it's definitely a solid movie. I just don't really remember and know what to say about it necessarily. Sonic 2. I was gonna give it an A tier, but I'm not gonna kid myself. It's a B tier, but look, for video game movies, it's S, without question. You know, I don't know how they do it, but Sonic like, especially how the trailer for the first movie was and the reaction to that. How is Sonic the one to like crack the code and know how to make video games into movies? A lot of people say they don't think it's as good as the first movie, which, you know, your opinion. My opinion is it's better. I think it's better than the first movie. You get Tails, you get Knuckles. Knuckles, my boy. Knuckles, like, my favorite Sonic character. He's one of my favorite video game characters. He's voiced by Idris Elba, which is even more fun, you know. And I love how Knuckles, he's just like this enigma, you know. And it definitely gets dragged down by the wedding subplot, you know. You get, like, the first movie, the human characters didn't feel all that forced in. This time, you know, I think in Sonic 3 they should definitely do, like, have the movie revolve around Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and now Shadow. But I like how they're all, you know, you got the husband and the wife, but then you also, like, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails are all kind of like they're kids now. I love that, and it's a nice movie. I think most people will like this movie because it gets it, you know. It gets Sonic. It gets how to do a video. It doesn't really adapt any story from the games, but it makes its own story and it works. And that's what I like about it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Did you guys even know that they made a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? It came out like in February, I think, or January, I don't know. And then I didn't watch it because I didn't know it came out. I was searching through Netflix one day, months later. In fact, it was only a few months ago. I was searching through Netflix one day and found it. I'm like, oh, they made a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Let's go watch it. And it's a fucking E tier. I've noticed a lot of horror franchises and slasher franchises get these, like, reboot quills, you know, because this is kind of like Halloween 2018, where it kind of retcons every single movie in this franchise aside from the first one, you know. The problem is it doesn't really feel that way, you know. It's like Sally, you know, the survivor, the final girl in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She comes back in this movie, but she's barely in it. She could have just not been in this movie, and I don't think a whole lot would have changed. And you have the, like, main character, like, the main teenage characters, they are unlikable. Like, you got the main girl who's fine, but the other three are just, especially her sister, like, she sees this one dude with a gun, and she's like, wow, what a tiny, he's probably got a tiny dick, look at him, he's got a, it's like, fuck you, shut up, he's got a gun, you understand you're in Texas, right? Of course he's gonna have a gun with him. What, in Texas, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? And you've probably seen the scene where it's like, where Leatherface is on the party bus, and then all those, like, fucking millennials are like, if you do anything, we will cancel your ass, and they pull out their phone. It's like, oh my god. Just, you know, obviously there are a lot of these slasher movies that make the characters unlikable so that it's more satisfying when the slasher villain kills them. This movie doesn't seem self-aware about that. You know, it doesn't seem aware that it has made characters so unlikable that you just want to see them die. It tries to make you root for the characters. And there are times when characters survive things they should have definitely died. It's just, who gives a shit, really? I don't know. Wanna know a bombshell? Wanna hear a bombshell? Remember that Grinch slasher movie, the mean one? Yeah, I fucking watched it. It's bad. And it goes in E tier. Now, believe it or not, yeah, not F tier, because it's made on a very low budget. And it's definitely, I admire it for not taking itself that seriously, you know? It does have to explain itself a lot, which, like, does make it seem like it's taking itself very seriously, but, like, most of the time it's not taking itself that seriously. But I hate it when these fucking rated R movies, these slasher movies, you know, you come for the violence, get a kill, but they cut away from the kill. It's like, what the fuck? You have the R rating. Why are you cutting away? You're not Marvel, you know, Marvel has to keep this somewhat, like, family-friendly image, you know, you're not Star Wars, who doesn't like to, you know, you're not any of that. You're, the whole point is that this is a spoof, this is a Grinch slasher movie, it's supposed to be violent. Now, it doesn't feel all chopped up like Morbius, it doesn't feel fucking gross like Blonde, and it doesn't feel fucking soulless and insulting like Pinocchio. And you know, I don't even think it's the worst movie in E tier, like, I actually think that might be the case. It might be like that. But like, it's just not that good. Obviously, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. It's a fucking Grinch, like, slasher. You know, the Grinch in a slasher movie makes sense because you can see I can see the Grinch killing people, and it does do some clever things to get around the whole like copyright thing, because Dr. Seuss characters are not in the public domain, so, and it does some clever things with that. There's a character in the movie named Dr. Zeus, not Dr. Seuss, Dr. Zeus, and now you also have Cindy, what's her name? You know, it's, and there are times where characters are talking, they'll be at a bar, and they're about to say the Grinch, but before they can say Grinch, the bartender's like, Finch, order for Finch. You know, it's kind of, it's clever, but it's not a good movie. I especially hated one scene where, like, this group of, like, dickheads are at some bar, and they're, like, being really crass to the one waitress there. One of them even grabs her fucking, like, her vagina. And it's like, and obviously, it's all to see, that this group of dickheads get viciously murdered by, as he's referred to in the movie, the mean one. But, like, there's a difference between making unlikable characters and making an unlikable movie. You can make your characters unlikable without having them molest another character. You don't need to fucking go there. That's just, what the fuck? But it's not, I don't think it's even worth getting too worked up over, but, like, at the same time, it's an E tier. It made it higher than 4 other movies, though. Talk about a disappointing movie, though. Thor: Love and Thunder. This was not my most anticipated MCU movie. Obviously, I was more excited for Doctor Strange, but Thor: Love and Thunder was, it's a D. The review I gave it, I was a little more positive on it because I had a fun time. But the more I've only watched it once. The more I've thought about it, though, no. This is like, I feel like we've all agreed, never let MCU humor get to this point. This is like, this kind of crossed the line. You know, Thor, he's just a buffoon. He's just a bumbling moron in this. And this, I think, people say that Endgame ruined Thor. if Endgame ruined Thor, what did this movie do to Thor? I want you to comment below and answer that question. And the problem is, this movie has so much cool stuff. I love, you know, they brought back Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, you know, as Mighty Thor, and she was like the one thing I was worried about going in, you know, giving her Mjolnir. Like, it took Steve Rogers like years to, it was like a year, it was so many years of a build-up for him to wield Mjolnir, and it took Jane like, I'm worthy, I guess. But it's like, that didn't frustrate me that much. I guess it's compared to like everything else in the movie. You have a very interesting subplot of her having cancer, and every time she gets Mjolnir, the cancer worsens. But then you fuck it over with screaming goats, which, by the way, I will always defend the goats. I really like the goats. But and you'll have Gore the God Butcher. You get Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, and then you butcher his use in the movie. He's Gore the God Butcher and this Jane Cancer subplot they're in the wrong movie, you know. And this is where, I've said this before, I know we all like it when directors get creative freedom, but sometimes there needs to be studio interference. Sometimes someone needs to come in and be like, hey, Taika, you know, maybe reel it back. I think Taika Waititi got some undeserved backlash for this. He's still a great director, but like, he went a little too far with the jokes and the humor. But yeah, Top Gun Maverick. So I said S tier is my top 5 favorite movies, and you know what? I'm gonna try to do that whenever I do these. But S tier, and I believe my favorite movie of 2022. What about this movie? It hasn't already been said. It's a movie theater experience. You know, this is a movie that gets you into the theater. It was in the theater for God knows how long. I think it just now went on Paramount Plus, and it might still be in some theaters. You know, the flights in it, it's, you know, Tom Cruise is just awesome in this movie. This might be one of his best performances, and I think it deserves the $1 billion that it made at the box office. You get some great cheer-worthy moments. You know, I don't know what I can say about this movie, except for this is a movie for the theater. I love that Tom Cruise made it so that this movie would be in the theater at a time where people were going to the movie theater, you know. Just happy a lot of people got to see it. Funny story, I got to see this movie 3 years before it actually came out. I saw that one of those test screenings where they don't tell you what the movie is. And then it got delayed over and over again because of the pandemic. So, yeah, I already knew that this movie was really good, but it's still, I finally get to put it on here, you know. And it just, it's fantastic. Turning Red. I really liked it, and yeah, I'm gonna give it A tier because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of people. I do not get the controversy for this movie. I've heard it from a parent's perspective, you know, like, don't listen to your friend, or don't listen to your parents, listen to your friends. But it's like, when you're a teenager, you're kind of a little pushy towards your parents, and you want to be with your friends a little more. You know what I mean? It's about growing up, basically, and that's what I really like. I'm not a teenage girl, and I never experienced being a teenage girl because I am a male. But the parts about growing up that didn't have to go through like girls getting their periods and shit, I was still able to relate to this movie. I think everyone should be able to relate to this movie because it's not particularly, I mean, it is about a girl going through puberty, but it's also a movie about growing up. And we all had to grow up, unless you are watching this movie and you are under the age of 13, which I don't know what you're doing, but put some parental controls on. It's just a fun movie. There's definitely some moments that I like. the part where like she's twerking at the end as a like a sign of sexual power. And at one point, May, you know, the main character who turns into a panda, I'm sure you guys know, she goes like, "My panda, my choice," which is a reference to My Body, My Choice, which is an abortion reference. I don't think, especially with everything that happened with abortion later, I don't think that was a good, you know, joke. I think that was pretty tasteless, but other than that, I think it's a really good movie. Uncharted. Look, I think Uncharted, I feel like this movie got a lot of hate. I'm not saying it's that good, because it really wasn't that good. It got a lot of hate, though, and I think it's not a terrible movie. It's just a perfectly average movie. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Or maybe top of D, because at the same, it's not good. You know? Yeah, D. I'll put it in D. I don't know, I just thought C tier is a little lacking, but whatever, who cares? Who gives a shit? You know, I love the Uncharted games, and I think this is a video game franchise that should absolutely, you know, it makes a whole lot of sense to bring this to the big screen, you know? The problem is, you got Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, and I'm not even gonna say he's bad in the movie. I like Tom Holland, you know, I think he's a really good actor. He's gotten a lot of pushback, I guess, for this role. But like, he's a really good actor. He's too young for Nathan Drake, you know? I get why they picked him for Nathan Drake, so they can have a younger Nathan Drake, so they can, you know, make this more into a franchise. They can do sequels and stuff. But I don't care. That's Tom Holland, he's just too young for Nathan Drake, I feel. Like, Nathan Drake's not like an old man, but like Tom Holland, you know, he's passable as a high schooler. And Mark Wahlberg as Sully, you know, Mark Wahlberg, I'd say he's the right age for Sully, but Mark Wahlberg looks really good for his age, and he looks too young for Sully, and he's not good as Sully. And I also don't think him and Tom Holland really had that good chemistry. Other than that, I don't know. I don't really remember a whole lot from this movie. Yeah, it's disappointing. Violent Night was a movie I did not think was going to be good, but then I did not mean to drop it there. But when I saw the trailer for it, it was like, wow, this actually doesn't look that bad. And I saw it a little too late. This was actually the last movie I watched on here. So I saw it like way after Christmas. But it's an A tier. It's an A tier. I think it's a Christmas classic almost, you know? It's been done before, you know, a bad Santa, although this Santa's not completely bad. I think, and I don't know how high of a bar this is. I did just watch Santa's Sleigh not too long ago for a video, go check that out. This is the best, like, Christmas movie spoof where it's like a bad Santa, you know? This is Santa beating up and murdering terrorists. Like, of course, the terrorists that are trying to, like, end Christmas. Like, yeah, you want to fucking see this Santa just fucking wreck shop. And it has some nice Christmas messages. It's not taking itself too seriously. You know, there's a moment where John Leguizamo's character, who he's great in this movie, by the way, as the villain, he's explaining his backstory and not showing his backstory. Now, for a second, I'm like, they're telling us his backstory, but they're not showing us. I'm like, wait, who cares? Like, if they did that, I wouldn't care. It doesn't take itself that seriously, but it takes itself seriously enough to be like, tug at the heartstrings, you know what I mean? And it's not perfect, you know, it's inherently goofy, and also I feel like, I don't know, like, there are some characters in here that are like just crass and just like fucking moody just for the sake of like jokes. And it's like, no, I hate it when, like, characters in movies are, like, crass for the sake of being crass. It's just not, I didn't like that, but this movie doesn't have a whole lot of that in there. So yeah, this is a fun movie. I suggest you watch this, especially during the Christmas season. Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I'm not too familiar with Al Yankovic, but I watched this, and it's amazing. It's hilarious. It's really funny, and I'm going to give it an A tier. Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al, I didn't think would work once I found out who Weird Al is. It absolutely works. he owns this role, and we get a bunch of cameos from other actors. It's just a funny movie. Obviously it's the story of Weird Al, but like, you know, kind of, there's some things that obviously didn't happen, and it's funny. I had a lot of fun with it. I really wish, I really wish that this movie was, you know, not only should it have been a theatrical movie, it should have been on a, if you're not gonna make it a theatrical movie, don't make it a fucking Roku original. No one's just gonna be looking through Roku and be like, oh, Weird Al, that movie's out. Like, yeah, like, you might have heard about this movie, but you didn't know it was out because it's a fucking Roku original. And, like, on top of that, the UI on Roku, at least the website, fucking sucks. So, yeah. But this is definitely a fantastic movie. You don't even need to sign up for Roku. You can just go to Roku and watch this movie, which is awesome. But yeah, it's a fun time. Last but not least, Werewolf by Night, which is also an A tier. This is like, it's a callback to old monster movies, werewolf movies. You have like cigarette burns. It's in black and white, so because it's in black and white, the movie gets away with a lot more blood and gore, which damn, this is the goriest MCU movie. You get to see characters' limbs get cut off. Yeah, the effects on the werewolf is not the best, but it's still really fun. This is what I want to see more of the MCU, because the MCU has done 2 of these specials. They're 2 for 2, and yeah, I want to see more. So yeah, that is my ranking, or that's the tier list. Now I'm gonna order them and give you each of them from worst to best. So, my ranking of every movie from the worst to the best. I have switched the order up a little bit. Some movies switched tiers, but not a whole lot of them. And here it goes. Disney's Pinocchio, Blonde, Morbius, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Mean One, The Invitation, Halloween Ends, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules, Uncharted, Thor Love and Thunder, Minions The Rise of Gru, The 9 Lives of Vince McMahon, Lightyear, Bob's Burgers the Movie, Black Adam, Scream, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Jackass Forever, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, A Christmas Story Christmas, Turning Red, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Werewolf by Night, Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, The Menu, Violent Night, Avatar The Way of Water, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, The Fabelmans, The Batman, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, and number 1, Top Gun Maverick. That is my ranking. That is every movie I saw in 2022 ranked from worst to best. We've already begun 2023, and we got a great lineup of movies coming out this year. I think I'll be in the movie theater a whole lot more this year than I was in 2022. Like, look at March and February alone. Like, whew. But yeah, my recording, this has been going on for almost an hour and a half, so we're gonna wrap this up now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys. I'll have a show ranking soon, and also I'll have an episode of my podcast where I rank all the games I played this year. Although I've spoiled my top 10 and bottom 10 already, but whatever. Be sure to like the video, come subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.